Episode of Mink Life Motivation Live, and we are here to ask you, are you having trouble pitching yourself at networking events? If so, stick around. Welcome back, and we're super excited here. I'm Colleen Strube, the follow-up fortune finder, and I'm here with my guest host, Jacqueline Shaulis, the excitable introvert. So excited to find out what that's all about. And we are also asking you, as the person on the couch, to be part of this show. We'd love to have your comments. If you got questions, pop them in the chat so that you can be part of the show and part of the excitement. So, are we ready to get started? Awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
So, we want to look at why are you passionate about helping people with presenting themselves using your zone of genius?
Oh, it's critical for introverts, especially because networking and connecting with people and conversations, that's generally not our jam. But if you're going to be successful in your own business or in companies or just successful in your life, you got to do it. So we have to get ourselves comfortable with finding those ways to include our introversion in how we are connecting. And that's really what I guide people to. And what I had to learn myself is to get comfortable with that, which is why I am the excitable introvert.
Very good. Very exciting. Yeah, I've been networking 20 plus years, so I love to connect people to other people. And a lot of times it's the introvert that's kind of in that corner, not sure what to do. And it's like you go over and grab them and say, hey, let me, introduce you to somebody. So kind of help them along. So my passion really comes from that, being able to connect people to other people, and then them coming back and saying, oh my God, thank you so much for introducing me to Mary. We're doing this, webinar together now, and super excited. So that's really where my passion and the key of being able to really match those strategic partners together is super exciting for me. So, and Jacqueline, so when you're looking at the next section of motivating people, right? You're looking at motivating them, and why is doing our presentations, our networking we do, important for professionals to thrive in not only their life, but also their business?
It's crucial so that people know how best to connect with you. I mean, one of the superpowers of the introvert is connection, and it's can be our downfall because there's so much energy that's extracted from us in those spaces of connection. But when you're looking at not just presenting from and presentations from like a PowerPoint standpoint, but how you are articulating and really encapsulating how you are connecting and how you are able to connect those dots, that's what makes the presenting crucial. Because now you're giving people something to remember you by, you're giving them something of interest, and also you're creating space for them to also give you ways that you can connect to them, they can connect to you. And to your point, one of the things that introverts do really well is connecting people. We see the connections in everything. And so even if we are not in the center going from flower to flower in these networking pieces, being able to present and articulate what we're doing allows us to connect interesting people to other interesting people, and to have people who you need this, and because of how this was presented, now you are able to connect someone else, and we want to create that space for ourselves as well. It's easy for us to see how we can connect other people to other people, but as introverts we also need to be connected, and presenting is what allows you to have an opening to have those creative connections.
Yeah, like I said, I've been networking for so long, and I love seeing the person who comes to a networking group and they're shy and they're not sure what to say, and they can't even really get their name out, more or less what they do in their business and so forth, and then just see them grow into someone who can, stand up in front of a room, and, take on the leadership roles in the groups and stuff. So I'd love working with those type of people. And you're right. It's all about giving your presentation so that you stand out and be unique, right? So there's, I was talking today at a networking event, and I was asking him, says, well, I don't know what my infomercial is or my commercial. And we were talking about it. And I was like, it's really you explaining what you do, kind of who you do it to and why you do it to them, right? So it's kind of all about like, this is who I work with, this is the problem that they're having, and this is how we can help them with that. So, and coming up with something that's unique, right? Because a lot of times, in networking, you run into a lot of categories that have a lot of people in them, the typical realtor, mortgage, so forth, the insurance, you run into those, and it's like, if you just say, oh, I'm a realtor, it doesn't help you, right?
Who
So
cares?
like, yeah, it's like, who cares? It's like, I mean, we care, but it's like, how am I going to remember? I know 10 other realtors, right? How am I going to remember you so that when we always, in my program, we talk about being top of mind, right? And being remembered. So it's that we always talk about the know, like, trust, and remember factor. So it's like, if I don't remember you, then it doesn't matter if I know, like, trust you, right? So it's like,
Right.
when I need that service, or when someone else needs that service and I want to refer you or connect you with somebody else, you have to be the one that comes top of mind. And that's where, I think you were saying, like, helping them become unique in what they're doing. So
Absolutely. And there was an interesting article here maybe some days ago, maybe a week ago, that was just about this and about ways that you can very quickly grab that attention. Because research shows that before someone, if you're having trouble with remembering names, part of that is because there's nothing memorable about you. There's nothing that you've presented to make memorable. And so this article was pointing out, starting with that interesting piece, starting with that humanity, as opposed to this is who I am and this is what I do. And if I'm remembering correctly, the formula was like, now what, so what? And essentially, now, like, who are you and what do you do? And then the so what, it can either be a way that you are helping people or something that's just personal. Like, I think they gave the example of the person being a marketer, but they're also an amateur banjo player. Now you're going to remember the fact that this person is a banjo player. And then he tells you that his name is Matt. A million Matts, a million marketers, but a banjo player who's also got those. Okay, now I'm going to remember you. Now you're going to stand out. And now I have that piece like, oh, what was that guy's name? Okay, banjo player. Oh yeah, Matt. Okay, you need to know Matt because his marketing, blah, 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 whatever he does. And so it was really great to see the way that was kind of put into context. Great piece, very short read, but a really good one. And that's
definitely
essential. Yeah, that's essential. Exactly like what you were saying, that piece where we're bringing our humanity. What is it personal that you can bring? And for introverts, it becomes essential because that's how we don't want to do the small talk. My name is anyway. Like it took effort for us to gather our energy to show up. Like, if I'm going to be at this thing, I'm going to have in mind the people that I want to connect with or the types of connections that I want to make. I'm going to make my 2, 3, if I'm feeling like wild, maybe 4 connections. And then I'm out. Like, I'm not sticking around and doing the song and dance, but having that piece, to your point, where you can bring that humanity, where you can have that thing that's memorable. Now you're able to make better use of your energy and how you're showing up.
There you go. Monica's always my top myself out, even my cat is going to be good.
Yes, absolutely. That is like the introvert's mantra.
I think I'm an introvert extrovert because it takes me a long time to leave, but once I'm there, that's when I become an extrovert. And like I love being around people and connecting. That's what that energizes me. So
yes.
So in that sense, of the extrovert. So
And it's
So,
interesting that you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go
oh, no,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say it's interesting with that introvert extrovert piece because a lot of times people will consider introverts as just being naturally shy or quiet, but that doesn't have anything to do
Mm-mm.
with introversion. You can be a shy extrovert too,
Yep.
and these are different things. Shyness is when you are actually afraid of people getting to know you. It's not that you don't want to, it's you're afraid of the consequence of you engaging. And so you have to do some mental gymnastics to get over that fear or to mitigate that fear, as opposed to being an introvert, which you're just internally processing things. So you just need to think it through and feel it through and have all of that and then respond. And so that also adds to kind of the complexity of leaving, like getting off of the couch and getting there. It's like I have to make sure I have enough energy in my reserves to not only leave the couch, to put on the clothes, to get into the car, to leave the house, to drive there, to actually go in, to check in or do whatever needs to be done before I actually can start doing anything useful for the networking. All of that is an energy drain. And for us introverts, we'll be processing that whole thing in our minds. And that's part of what will drain us also. It's like, I've got to do all of these things
Right. Even
before I
before
can
you get
even
started.
have a conversation. It's if you're experiencing that, you're not unusual. You're not
There
crazy.
you
That's
go.
a typical introvert experience. But it doesn't have to detract, even though you are an internal processor and you have to go through this. You just need to mitigate it. You just need to make sure you have your energy burst, you have your ways to shore up your energy, you come in intentional and purposeful, make your 2, 3, maybe 4 connections, and then leave. It's fine to leave. It's okay to leave.
There you go. I was wondering, yeah, Monica gave us a high five. So so our next question about the being inspired was talking, and you kind of pulled right into that about how is it that when you have that problem, that you've had a problem for yourself in the past and how to overcome it. So it's like you were saying, is like, okay, the introvert has got all this stuff, how do they get over that piece? So to actually get up and say, okay, I know, like for me, in the sense of, I know a networking meeting is about networking. So it's easier for me to walk up to somebody that I don't know and just say, hey, my name's Colleen, I'm the follow-up fortune finder. This is what I do. How can I help you? How can I support you? Because I know if that's what we're supposed to do at that event. Now,
Right.
I wouldn't do that at the shop at a grocery store. That's not me. That's
Right.
not my type, but I can easily, I can do it at those types of events because I know that's what we're supposed to do. So how would an introvert maybe overcome, those problems? So.
Well, exactly what you said. It's a very, very crucial piece for introverts, and it's that you're very intentional. You know the assignment before you get there. So you know that this isn't like you're grocery shopping and you're going to start up a conversation. For many extroverts, they may be more inclined to do that. For us, it's like, we're here for groceries, don't look at us. But when you are in those situations where the whole point is to engage, the whole point is to interact, you already know this is the purpose. And so you can manage your energy accordingly. So on those days where you know you need to go to these networking meetings, whether it's a smaller one or a larger one, don't do other things, or at least limit the things that are going to need your energy earlier on in the day. So if you're going to have a big meeting, or you're going to have several calls back to back, if you've got to be at your kid's school, like anything that's going to draw from your energy earlier in the day, that means that energy is not going to be there for the networking event, and more than likely you just won't go. So you want to try to mitigate or at least avoid anything earlier in the day that's going to drain you. That's one. And then 2, you need to also prep yourself. So have those things that are going to help energize you. Now, it can be as simple as having a cup of tea. It could be having photos of a loved one, of your pet, being in nature, like whatever your thing is, because it is unique to each and every person. The thing that's going to make you most energized, you need to do more of that immediately before you're doing whatever the thing is. So if you are there to simply make connections, if you're there to give a presentation or a talk, and then there's networking afterward, you need to make sure your energy is shored up beforehand, because you're going to be drained, as we talked about, with everything leading up to it. And then lastly, making sure you set aside time after you've done the networking to recharge again, because for you to show up in a way that is powerful and that is connected and impactful, it's one, going to drain you, but if you're not careful, it can deplete you to the point where you actually have like physical, visceral reactions. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had a big event that I was talking, there's a few hundred people on stage. It was wonderful. I'm the introvert that loves being on stages in front of big audiences, but then I want to disappear for like many hours, like lose my number. And so I did not. I did not have in place my shoring up my energy beforehand and shoring up after, and I nearly collapsed once I left the stage, because it's like someone just flipped off a switch. It's like lights out. And it was terrifying, but it was a very important lesson. I needed to do that.
Learn from those, right?
Yeah, you get the lesson and you continue to use it. So those are the
Monica
three
just
big ways.
Stole mine.
It's so important.
She said music does it for her, and that's the same for me. Like if I'm feeling down or something, it's like, turn on the music, turn on a playlist, and get pumped up and so forth. So and you're right. Like I think some people, like when I talk about follow-up and people talk about, oh, we'll schedule, follow-up time right after your meeting, to get it done. For me, I put all my energy into networking. So when I leave the meeting, I don't have that energy or I'm not in the same mindset that I want to do follow up and connections and just make it like a rote thing. So I was struggling with that. And then, or you're going to another event. So there wasn't really time to do it. So that's why one of the reasons that we created the Fall in Love with Follow-Up experience is to give people that set time to do that follow-up, where, like you said, if they're an introvert and they go to the event, they don't want to keep going, right? They need to recharge. So this gives you a set time to be able to do something. So that's perfect. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you pointed this out, because sometimes we can feel the pressure to we have to do it right now. Mm-hmm. And first of all, that's false.
Yeah.
If you were to drop right at this moment, the world would keep turning. So I'm confident that if it took you a day to follow up, the world would still be turning. Yeah. Some of that is taking that pressure off of us. And then that also allows us introverts to then, when we are following up and when we are connecting, we're bringing that humanity, we're bringing that introspection and that insight, because we've had time to recharge and also to process those conversations, those connections, how we can be of support to the person we're following up with, and sometimes how we can connect them with either clients, with other resources, with collaborators. That extra time is essential, because that's how we're able to add more value when we follow up.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. So our favorite, this is my favorite, the networking piece is always my favorite. So who should we ask for help when we're trying to solve the problems with our pitch? So who's a great connection that you work with, or if someone's out there looking for help, who do you normally go to?
For specifically for pitches?
Pitches are just, if you're, if they're out there, it's like, who's that person, like for yourself that you might go to, or, obviously maybe your clients are coming to you and stuff, but like, who's those collaborative partners that we're looking at? So.
I mean, for me, one of the most helpful resources for me was she's still around, thank God, Lisa Nichols. For those who aren't familiar with her, she's a fairly prominent motivational speaker and writer, and she does tremendous work, has for decades. And one of the most impactful things that I learned for that pitch or that elevator speech, or there are different names for it, but for that little nugget, she's known for doing something called the dip. And essentially it is you having that similar to what we were talking about before, the portion of where you were talking about how you're showing up and how you're serving, and then you talk about your personal story. Where was that low point that led to you now getting to the point where you are? And how did that transformation now, how does it serve and inform how you're serving other people? That type of approach and that type of perspective on it was so new to me. I had never heard anyone frame like this from the perspective of not just this is what I do, but also this is how my personal transformation is helping me transform other people. So I love her approach to a pitch and to like that kind of that initial nugget piece.
Right.
And it's so useful in a number of areas. You can use that same method literally across anything, where you're starting with where you are, where you were, where you are now serving other people. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So simple. It's like
it's like I think I've heard
so
that
simple.
also similar, like the hero's journey, right? So it's like, here we are. You set the stage. It's like, here, this thing happened. This is how we handle it. Here's what, so. And trying to, and it takes, sometimes it takes a while, right? I mean, for me, it's been a long time. Like I pulled all these different things together, and then finally, sometimes it takes time to look back and go, oh, well, that's when it was, right? It wasn't, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I always thought, oh, it's going to be this big, light switch thing, right? It's like, oh, I woke up one day and I just said, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore like this, right? Some people have those, right? For me, it was more of looking back and going, oh, and getting that epiphany of like being a connector. I was always like, in my mind, it's like, oh, well, I don't fit in anywhere. I was always felt like I was always on the outside. And then after a long time of looking back, is the reason was because I can connect all these different groups. So in order to be able to do that, you have to kind of be in the middle and have a piece of them each of the sides. So it wasn't like I wasn't fully in a group, and that's kind of where I felt that, but it was the fact that I could be that conduit between people and really help them there. So.
Oh, so many gems in what you just said, and I want to tease them out just because I don't want anyone to miss it. First of all, it takes time. It boggles my mind, and this is like just human nature. I want to have it, and I want to have it right now, and it's going to be perfect. And no. It takes time to develop that. And then two, it's going to change because you are evolving, you are changing. And so you may have like that nugget or that signature story or that signature presentation that just no longer serves you because that's not who you are and that's not how you're showing up in the world. And that's not a bad thing. For us introverts, we'll take it very personally and we'll ruminate over all of the ways that we should have left it the same. It's like, it's okay. That's like, good. You should not be the same person now that you were 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. That is, you can't be 50 and still be a 5-year-old and still be functional. Like that's not a good thing. And so I love that you pointed that out, and I wanted to tease that out. And then also looking back, for one, some of the pieces of what I do and how I even came to it only came to the forefront as I was looking back, and it's like, well, I mean, I have lots of tragic stories, don't get me wrong, but there are none that are like really of use. Like they're great, there's lessons from them, but I don't know what to do with this. And as I was looking at not just tragedies, but also just knowing, like there are certain things that I just knew to be true, and I don't know how I know, I just do. And I didn't have the languaging for it until I had been through enough of a process. And I'm looking back, okay, now I see how all of this goes together. Now it makes perfect sense. My introversion has been my superpower this entire time. I just didn't have the language for it. I just didn't know what to call it. And I wouldn't have known that without looking back. And the last thing that you said that was so powerful was that it doesn't have to be some big thing. Like it doesn't have to be some massive tragedy. You can have these epiphanies, and it's something very simple. I mean, I know for me, my big epiphany was very simple. I got recruited in high school to go to a different school to be on the debate team. That was my epiphany, because I went from being the person who was known for being like the quiet girl who has a book in the corner that I always knew, the person that I always saw, was traveling the world, was on these massive stages, and was writing books, award-winning books. And I was told that I can't do both. I can't be the bookworm and also in front of thousands of people. That's not possible. My epiphany was when I had this recruitment and I got to just play around. It's like, you know what? If I'm really this person who's going to be publishing these books, I mean, as a 5-year-old, my aspiration was to be a New York Times bestselling author. So weird kid from the start. So if that's true, if I'm going to be doing that, I guess I need to publish my work. I need to let people see what I write. Let me try this out and see how it goes. If I'm going to be on these stages in front of thousands of people, I should probably do something where I'm in front of a lot of people. So let me audition for the lead in the school play. Let's see what happens. Having just that throwaway experience, really, like you went to a new school, you did some new things, you tried it out and see what happened. It was that space of just having that freedom and that permission to try out and like, let's just see what happens. That is what created the path for literally everything else. What I teach now, what I do now, all of the experiences and the joy I have now started with that little throwaway experience that was not massive. There was no no doom. It was just a simple thing. But sometimes those epiphanies and those things that do allow those connections and allow you to have that big pitch, it's from something as simple as that. But you won't know it until you're looking back and you're reviewing and you're processing. It's like, how does this make sense? Like, yeah. So all of that is what I got from what you said. Like, all of that.
and Monica chimed in, so she's like, it's a journey. Sometimes it happened just yesterday, right? So sometimes it is as quick, easy as you just make a decision to do it, right? So Monica and I were having a conversation and we were talking about process and doing it, and that's how I'm like, oh my God, if I could just fall in love with this process. And that's kind of like, just like that, like the light bulb went on and like, oh my God, that's what we need to do. We need to change our mindset around follow-up and just fall in love with it. And that that changed everything, right? So it was just that little bit that like now set it off and it's like, oh my God, that sounds great, right? Look, we're running out of time already because we're having such a great time. So what's that one tip for boosting your influence by focusing on those presentations? What's that tip you can give somebody that's like, if they focus on their presentation, that could really help them and set the apart? So
that one tip would be bring your humanity to the forefront. We have so many people that are overlapping in what they do, and it's the same as you. It's in your area. There are so many people who are frankly faking the funk, who are not about the things that they're presenting. And what we as introverts do so beautifully when we turn that inward focus outward is bringing that humanity, is bringing that steadfast groundedness. So bring your humanity, bring your quirks, bring your interests, bring your introversion to the forefront. That is the path for not only differentiating, but also for being more influential and impactful.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. I think that's helping people, what is that thing that makes you unique, right? And you bring it. I think the other thing is to never ask for somebody or someone, right? So this is one of my pet peeves is like, if I'm trying to help you and refer and figure out who's the right connection for you, if you say, well, I need somebody who has skin, or I need, somebody who it wants to sell their house, that does not help my brain figure out who I can connect you to. So be specific in the sense of like, bring it at least to a point where like I kind of think, oh, do I have that person in my phone? The brain's a great thing because it can expand. It takes a little more time to kind of narrow down. So give me the narrow, let my brain do the expansion for you. So, but yeah, be kind of specific in what you're looking for so that we can help you, right? That's all about, we want to help everyone. So tell us more, Jacqueline, like how can we connect with you? So,
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the things that will be available to everyone is a little quiz to see on how you're connecting. We talked about this so much. When you go to assessyourawesome.com, you'll take a quiz and see how you're doing. Are you connecting the ways that you think? And also, if you're not, what can you do to better connect?
And for me, I like we were talking about follow up and falling in love with follow up. You can go to fallinlovewithfollowup.com. Connect with me, whether you just want to have a quick call, but more importantly, we let you try our level 1 of our program absolutely for free. Come, you got to do your follow up anyway, so come do it with us, have some fun, get those appointments booked on your calendar, make those relationships that you know you need to do for your business. And Monica has some great announcements for our MinkLife world.
Yes. So if you have today, I know I have chat today, kind of a show. Well, we bring these conversations to you every single week. That's at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Conversation, get in those chats and really kind of. But if that is, not your jam and you can't really watch the show, no worries. Gotcha. Just go where you can find any cast for MinkLife so you can listen to the show on the go. And if you are interested in being on the space, you want to hit those stage, you want to be just like the excited. Live that you next week on Wednesday, I'm back with another awesome conversation about boosting your influence. Colleen.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. Thank you, Jacqueline. Amazing. We are definitely connecting afterwards. So make sure you guys connect with everyone. It's been a great show. I will see you next week.